So thank you so much, Mayor Kastner, for joining me. I have a couple of questions for you. Number one, you're on mute.
Okay.
So in Homer, Alaska, I was reading. It says that you are a more moderate mayor. Do you think though that politics plays such an important part in Alaska as much as it is? I know you. I know Ken. He's a great guy. Ken knows me. Do you think that it's more relationships in a small town or policy as it is here in Los Angeles? I mean, obviously you need both.
Well, I think it's trust and the ability to listen. So, you know, moderate. But if you look at the whole country, we're kind of evenly divided right now. We got the ends of the continuum on the pandemic. You got the deniers, and you got the people that are in panic, and so I got to be in the middle on that. I can't allow it to get out to those extremes, and so moderate. Yeah, I'm fiscally conservative, and so and I also kind of stand up for the citizenry. Um, Most places, even here, like our city attorney tells me that I should be a champion for the city. And I go, no, I'm a champion for the shareholders, for the citizens. So I'm kind of in the middle on that too, because the city council is firmly planted on the interest of the corporate city. And so it's good to have some balance.
Do you think that your decisions in LA, let's say our mayor, Eric Garcetti, makes a decision, chances are he is not going to see the person who his decisions impact. Let's say you fire a couple of sanitation workers, you might see them or their wives at the grocery store. How does that shape decision making versus if you aren't, because you're probably more held accountable than politicians here in Los Angeles. Does that impact your decision making, the fact that because I'm sure you know a lot of your constituents by name.
Yeah, but I'm not a strong mayor. We have a city manager form of government here, so I'm the chief executive officer, and I represent the city, and I have a lot of leadership in that I help shape craft policies, but I'm not. The city council has the policy making authority, and the city manager has the hiring firing sort of a thing. But the council can hire and fire our attorney and our city manager. So yeah, and it's not that kind of a city anyway. We just don't do a lot of firing here. What I'm going to hear about are all of the things that people want to see, or parking problems, or anything that involves calling somebody that they think can help them. I'm going to be one of the first people they call, because I have lived here for a really long time, and I do know my way around, and tend to, get some things done just by picking up the phone and asking people to do it.
Is there a parking problem in Homer, Alaska? I mean, here we have a lot of trouble finding a parking spot.
Well, I won't say there's a parking problem, but sometimes, neighbors will encroach on somebody's driveway, or that's just a typical thing. If somebody's burning, we pick up beach coal here in Homer, and so sometimes people in the middle of the summer are burning a coal stove, and it's a very noxious smelling smoke that comes from it. And so people call about all sorts of things that are really kind of.
So you're almost a therapist. You're almost a therapist mayor.
Well, I don't know about therapy, but like I say, it's the reason I ran is because we were equally divided on the council, and we were kind of in stasis, and so I thought that I could bridge that pretty well, and been fairly successful at it.
Do you see Alaska, the population, do you think that people are 20 years from now, millennials and younger people, want to live in Homer, Alaska, or do they want to move to more of the bigger cities, the Anchorage, the Fairbanks, or California, or Washington? Or once you're born there, you never.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah. So there was a period of time. I moved here in 1973, and there was a period of time where there was a complete exodus of the young people that grew up here and went to school. I mean, they got outside and got away from Homer, kind of a Hicksville sort of a thing. But a lot of those kids have returned now, and now they're taking over, places in government and places in the school district, and they're becoming a big part of the community. Homer, though, is a really desirous place to live, and so we have a lot of people moving here, building nice homes, and moving here, and with the change in the climate, this place has become a lot more temperate. So, what used to be like long, miserable winters are kind of like no big deal anymore. We don't get the terrible winter storms and stuff that we used to get. And
how cold is it right now for you?
It's raining here right now. It snowed all night, and then now it's raining. So
because I noticed you're just wearing a sweatshirt and a t-shirt. If it was me, especially being from California, I would probably be in like one of those heavy jackets that the Arctic researchers use. Do you get used to the cold ever, or?
Well, it's a different kind of cold. I grew up in New England, and there, that cold gets right into your bones, and here it's a drier cold. And so no, when I was out shoveling earlier, I didn't have gloves on or anything. But it's even in Fairbanks, where it's a really dry cold, when it's 40 below zero and then it warms up to zero, nobody's wearing their hats anymore, and nobody's wearing their gloves anymore at zero, because it's a different type of cold.
You get used to it?
I think that it's not that you get used to it. It's just a different type of cold. If you go to New Orleans and it's 40 degrees, you think that you're going to die, because that cold just gets right into your bones because of the humidity. But here we don't have that high humidity, and so it's just a different kind of cold. And I mean, it's still enough to freeze your skin, but you generate enough heat that all of a sudden you're shedding. At 40 below, you're completely covered up.
I was reading in Alaska, they have a huge problem with food costs. Let's say you were to want to buy a watermelon, you're going to pay like $40, or toilet paper.
No, they're not $40. But yeah.
Like
things are more expensive here, and there's been a real revolution in high tunnel growing, and so we've expanded our growing season here, and we have fresh vegetables that start early now and later. And so we have a lot of local produce grown right here in the state. In
the summer, is it because your summers are like 24 hours, right?
Not in Homer, but north. That's what the Arctic Circle is all about. It's in the wintertime. In the wintertime, there's no
light,
and then in the summertime, it's 24 hours.
How do people afford food? I mean, food is so expensive. California, we have a high cost of living. But I mean, sure, you guys probably we pay around $3 for a gallon of gas. You probably pay less than us, right?
No, we pay about the same. Whenever I go to San Francisco, it's always, excuse me, about 25 cents differential, and there's a lot more taxes on it down there than there are up here. We don't have a big road tax hit on it. But still, we just don't have the population for them to produce the number of gallons, and most of the refining is still done in the lower 48 and shipped back to Alaska.
Is climate change affecting Homer?
Sure, big way.
How so?
Well, like this, this December 1st, and it's raining out, and the lake, we have a big lake in the center of town, and it freezes a lot later than it used to freeze. It goes out a lot sooner in the spring. The glaciers are receding like crazy across the bay. They're just, kind of melting away in front of your eyes. If you look at pictures that you took, even 10 years ago of a glacier, it is just kind of pulled back into the mountains and gotten lower. If you look at pictures today and pictures over time, so the salt water is getting a little bit warmer, and
fishing is a big industry. Has that affected fishing?
Pardon?
I know fishing.
What's affected fishing more, I think, is what they call ocean acidification, and that's just the carbon dump that's going down into the salt water is making the ocean. It's still very basic, but it's gotten more acidy, and because of that, you're getting changes in shellfish shell growth, and some of the little creatures that salmon feed on are starting to die off, and so it's affecting the food chain.
My last topic is COVID. Is COVID a big issue in Alaska? I was reading somewhere, and this is on Instagram, so maybe not the best source, but it was saying that you're more likely to catch COVID in Alaska than you are in California, population-wise, and that seemed a bit odd to me. Is COVID really bad in Alaska? Or because people are more naturally spread out, you are less likely to catch it? Because, I mean, you may come into town maybe like, I don't know, a couple of times because you're more spread out? Or is it the fact that there's just one meeting place, maybe a lesser supply of, let's say, grocery stores, that if one person at the grocery store has it, basically the whole town's going to get it?
Well, no, but so what's happened in Alaska is that we went through a whole summer with low numbers, and we didn't have an awful lot of out of state tourists this year.
And that affected the economy, though, I'm assuming. So you have to balance.
Somewhat, but Homer did okay because people within Alaska still like to come down here for the fishing and everything in the summertime. So we had a decent season, not a miserable season, but not. And the other thing is that we pumped $10 million into the economy with the CARES Act money that we got from the federal government, and so we were able to do some of that. But recently, so this started about the middle of March, and we're 8.5 months into the pandemic. So for the first about 8 months, we had 175 cases here in Homer. So not really pretty great, actually, not big numbers.
Out of a population of around 4,000, right?
Or 5 or 6. I mean, it depends on how you want to define Homer, because there's, the city limits, and then there's, people that live to the east and to the
suburbs,
west.
Quote unquote suburbs.
Yeah, kind of. So the last 3 weeks, we've had 195 cases. So our case count has gone up 111% in 3 weeks. And so, yeah, we have something going on here, and that's probably undercounted because not everybody gets tested after they get sick.
Do you have a testing problem, or is testing?
No, I don't think it's a testing problem. They have plenty of tests in the capacity. It's just that, keeping kids in school, we're tied to our count, and so people were not going to get tested because they wanted to try and keep the kids in school. But the schools have been closed now for about 2-3 weeks, and remote learning is not helpful. Everybody's a little bit on edge.
Do you have an internet problem? I mean, I would think since it's the internet for a lot of people, it's probably a lot more expensive than it is here in California. So the internet and remote learning, is it practical in Alaska? Because it's not working here in California, if I'm being totally honest. So I can imagine that it's probably even harder in Alaska.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that there's any reason for you to be deceptive with me, but totally honest. Anyway, the internet we have internet capacity. We have, we're fine on internet capacity. It's just having the kids at home, and then of course there are a whole subset of parents that want to try and keep sports going, and the sports have been a big vector of new infections. So, I mean, the whole not masking thing, it's a big deal here.
Are masks mandated when you go to the stores?
Well, the stores require you to wear masks, but they don't enforce it. So there are a lot of people wandering around in the stores that don't have masks. I mean, they tried to enforce it at the beginning, and they just got so much pushback that it didn't work out.
My last question is, because I know you have to go probably, is for the vaccines. When the vaccines come, is there going to be? I mean, they have to keep it at like -80, so that won't be an issue in the winter. But is distributing it, because again, Homer is it's I wouldn't say it's the middle of nowhere compared to some parts of Alaska, but it's definitely a bit out there. Is the vaccines? Do you think that you have the infrastructure ready for vaccine distribution in Homer when they're available?
Well, yeah, except that it's going to come out in tranches or phases, and so the first batch that arrives in Alaska will probably be immediately distributed to the frontline healthcare workers, the ones that are actually there, and people that work in nursing homes will probably be vaccinated very quickly.
Well, people trust the vaccine. Sorry for interrupting, but that's a big thing. I'm sure in Alaska they have strong libertarian values. In fact, I believe in one of the last Senate elections, the Libertarian actually got more votes than the Democrat. And so is there a sort of distrust of the government, or do you think they're going to line up? Because even here in California, people are saying, I don't trust the vaccine. Is that an issue? Or do you think that because you can't force people to take the vaccine, but do you think that people, are you going to take it when it becomes available?
Yeah, but look at my gray beard. I'm at risk. So yeah, I will. But I think that there's already a distribution plan in place, and it's just a matter of waiting for them. And it's only the Pfizer vaccine that requires that deep a chill, and they're making cabinets to deal with that and keep it that way. So all these vaccines are a 2-part deal, so you'd have to get 2 shots.
My last
I am not going to resist being vaccinated, because my other vaccines shots have kept me safe for my whole life.
My last question is, what can the
This is your third last question.
ADHD. My third and last and final question is, what can the rest of America learn from Homer?
Well, I don't know. Everybody talks about small town values, and one of the things, when people start getting really kind of grumbly and everything like that, I always remind them to look around and look where we live, because I describe Homer as God's little side pocket. This is a wonderful, wonderful place to live. We have all kinds of resources. We have, even though we have a diverse population of opinion, everybody that lives here loves living here. And so, we have that common thread. So I guess, community values, this whole thing about community is that we really have to respect one another and work together if we're going to beat this thing. And I know that we're going to lose businesses here, and I know that we're going to lose a life or two here. But if we could just, get back on the cooperation train. So that's all. Small town values can kind of be applied to neighborhood values in bigger cities, and neighborhoods can affect the surrounding neighborhoods. And it's just an attitude, and you see it every once in a while when everybody all of a sudden just kind of puts it all aside and starts working together.
Thank you so much for your time, Mayor Kastner. Have a great
You're welcome, Adam. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
How many mayors are you talking to?
As many as I can. Have a great day. Thank you.
Yeah, but how many? How many have you done?
You're my first.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you so much. Bye, man.